Hello everybody, here we are again in the kitchen. I think you've seen us a couple of times in this kitchen, but today we're going to be making something different. We've had a bumper crop this year in the garden of figs. Here we are, a whole bunch of these. So, got to do something with them. We decided the best idea, because we haven't tried it before, is to make some fig, rosemary and red wine jam. Now, the idea behind the jam is we can put it with cheese and things like that to give us a little extra flavour. What we will do that's a bit different is we'll spice it up a little bit because I kind of like the idea of a spicy jam and cheese. So, first of all, what are we going to be using? What ingredients do we need? Well, I've got on my board here the main ingredients. Figs, surprise, is the main thing. With the figs, red wine, around about a glassful, but there you go. We've got some lemon juice, we've got rosemary, and we've got some chilies. They also are from the garden, which is quite nice. To make sure it sets up, got some pectin. We need pectin in it to make sure it sets. The equipment we're going to use, we're going to be canning. So canning's a little bit different for those of you that have just made ordinary jam before, where you put the nice little doily over the top and an elastic band. Canning means that we can preserve this jam for around about a year to a year and a half. I think we'll probably eat it by then. And for those of you who don't want to can, you can make it quick and you can eat it in a short period of time. So for that, we're going to need some jars. The recipe we're using is out of Ball's canning book. Now that book's very handy. It gives you all the ingredients and the equipment you need. So as I say, some bottles to put it in, a funnel to pour the jam into. Now it comes to the tricky bit. Over here you'll see there's a rather large pot. That pot is containing hot water. What we do is we put it into the jars, we loosely put the lids on and we put it in there for 10 minutes. And during that time it sucks in the lid and holds everything tight, so it forms a vacuum really, and that vacuum keeps things nice and fresh. This obviously is needed to lift the jars in and out. So next thing we're going to do is start our preparation. Okay, so now we're actually starting to do stuff. So here I've got the fresh rosemary, that's out of the garden. A nice fresh piece, you can tell it is. It's the leaves are nice and soft to the touch. So we're going to break up just the leaves off here, around about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 tablespoons worth of leaves. So just pulling them off. I'm not going to chop these. I don't think the recipe calls you to chop them. We are going to sieve them afterwards, sieve them out of the whole thing. So the idea is at the moment to steep the leaves and the wine together. So over here I've got my wine, it's ready to go. It's a red wine. It suggests a good quality. Now I have to say I've probably not been as expensive on that as I could have been, because the expensive stuff I like to drink, and the cheap stuff or cheaper stuff is good for making the jam. Okay, I've got a reasonable amount there, probably a few more. Let's just see, I might as well use the whole of this little stick up that I've got. And what I'm going to do now is pop in the wine into a pan here. Now this doesn't have to be a very big pan. So what we're going to do is pour in the wine. Oopsie daisy, a little bit short there now. Okay, that's my wine in. And pop this over here. Now we're going to sprinkle in the rosemary. Very simple really, this stage really. So all the leaves are in. Now I've got it turned on, and I've got to let it heat up and really just bring it to the boil. Once it's reached the boil, what we're going to do then is switch it off, just let the whole thing steep for about half an hour, and after we've done that we're going to strain it out and we'll carry on with the rest of the process. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of chopping. You've got to chop up the figs pretty small. Make sure we take the ends off as we do them. And what I'm going to be looking for is 2 cups of these. So I've got more than enough here, and the spares we will use actually, what we'll use the spares for is figgy biscuits, which are quite nice, and I have to say, unfortunately, they don't last very long. I'm not the expert on figgy biscuits. Helen's the expert on figgy biscuits. I'm just the expert on eating them, actually. So here we are, just chopping away. I'm also going to chop up a few chilies to go with it. Remember to do them fine. So we're looking for 2 cups. I haven't got one yet, but we're getting there. Here we are. Yes, nice and fine on those. I suppose the idea is you're going to be spreading them on as a jam, so you don't want great heaving chunks of them. But on the other hand, I like a bit of something, because these things, they really do go quite mushy. And now these are quite ripe. They don't always look so ripe, but they are. And there's nearly a cup for us. I may not have so many left over as I thought. They're cut up pretty small, so the cup takes more. But not to worry, we have so many that grew this year on our fig tree that I've got plenty as a backup. So it's kind of rough chop. I mean, it doesn't have to be too fancy or anything. Well, that's me, I'm not too fancy. There's 1 cup, put them in there. I'll just carry on for the 2nd cup. And I think what I'll do with, now the recipe of course doesn't mention the chilies, but I think what I'll do with those is put them in the same mixture. I've got enough there, but just these last few I think we'll just pop them straight in there actually. I've got my measure. Oh, some of these are quite soft. It's funny how they ripen on the tree. They don't all come up once. You have to keep popping out every few days. And you see another batch there that's so 2s and 3s all the time. Then if you're going to store them, we found the best way is just put them in the freezer. I mean, unless you're going to do something with them right away. I mean, you could do something like fig with a little bit of goat's cheese, a little bit of honey, maybe as a sort of starter or something like that. But, so there we are. That's all that lot together, and just a bit of a quick chop on the. I'm going to put about 2 of these long chilies out the garden. They're Thai chilies, bit of strength in these. A little chop up. I think there's probably plenty enough there. That's going to give flavour. Now there's a couple of these little naughty little chilies. These are native to here. They're chilterpens. They're very small, but they've got a bit of a kick with them. So we'll just give them a little trim down. 2 tiny ones there, but that's going to be plenty in there. Right, so the next thing is going to be a bit of sieving. Putting it all in this pot, a little bit bigger pot here this time because we're going to add all the sugar to it. Going to basically bring them to the boil. Once we've got to the boil, pectin and everything else is in. We're going to then spoon it out, put it into our bottles, and then we'll get onto the canning side. Now we're getting on to sieving the wine and the rosemary. I tell you what, it's a great smell. You wouldn't think so. I didn't think the rosemary would really give it so much flavour, but it has. Wow, you can really smell that rosemary coming through the wine. It's lovely. So hopefully it transfers itself to the finished jam. So I'm going into a bigger pot. The reason being for that is we're going to obviously be adding jam and things like that. That's sieved. Okay, put that to one side. The sink. Okay, to this, so we're going to add all the figs that we chopped up, along with the chilies which I put in. Now, as I say, that's a bit experimental, so we're going to have to report back how that works. So pop those in there. That's those in. Oh, we don't want to miss those 2 chilies. Okay, let's get this turned on. We're going to bring it to a boil, but before we do, we need to also add the lemon juice. Now I've got 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. and also the pectin. Now I'm using Ball's own pectin, but I'm sure any brand of pectin will do for this. And 3 tablespoons of the powdered pectin. I don't know if you have the bottle, but I don't know quite how much that would be. But powdered pectin, 3 tablespoons. Sprinkle that in. Okay, that's everything in there. Now I'm going to give it a bit of a stir around, just to make sure all that sort of amalgamates in there. So as I say, in there we've got the 2 cupfuls of the figs. We've got 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 3 tablespoons of pectin. Now I'm going to bring that to the boil. Let it get to a nice rolling boil. Once we've done that, I'm going to add sugar. Now the amount of sugar is 2.5 cups. Put in the sugar, let that dissolve, bring it back to a rolling boil. Then we're going to spoon it out into the jars and do the bit of canning that we're doing. Okay? Okay, so we've got the sugar in, all the ingredients are in, and we've done the rolling boils. Just switch this off, and now we're going to bottle the jam, and then we're going to put it into the canning process, which is very simple. So just give it a nice stir, just check we're all good with that. It'll be fairly quick. It's actually, the pectin is already starting to make it look a little sticky. So here we go with the jars. I'll just take that off the heat a little. We're going to scoop some out. Now you'll see I'm using this ladle and this big wide mouth funnel. The wide mouth funnel really helps because it means you don't spill it everywhere. When it gets to the bottom of the wide mouth funnel, you've just about got the right amount in there. You want it about 1/4 inch from the top. You might come around and just top it up again afterwards. In we go. Careful I don't drop them. It looks good, doesn't it? Such a deep colour. I'll probably wish I'd chopped the fruit a little thinner, but you know, I can live with that. Let's put it into this one, I think, here. Still going. Oh, try not to spill any. I'm going to have to just be a bit clever with this last bit. Now, rather than that one at the back, I'm tempted to look at the little tiny ones because they're kind of good starting ones, aren't they? So I'm going to move to this one. I'm going to have to do a bit of rearranging. Shift that over. Watch your fingers, it's kind of hot. And just scoop in the last few bits, really. See if I can fill these 2 little ones. And then if there's any spare, I'll be going around and topping up various ones. A little bit more in that. Yeah, we just got a tiny scraper. So how many did we get? About pretty well as the recipe said, actually. We got 4, I think. If you count the 3 of these and the 2 small ones, just about there, aren't we? How's that looking? I think pretty good, you know. I think at that, we're done. So, pop those in there and off to the sink with that. Next job's going to be going to the canning process. Now, the lids, these are brand new and clean and tidy. You're going to drop them on to each of these, but you need to make sure that the tops are nice and clean. So I need a clean duster. Just a moment. If you've got stickiness around them, we don't really want that, so round we go. There you go. Slightly asbestos fingers here. So the jam's hot, and so is the bottles. There we go, that's that. Just round this one. Now canning's quite interesting. Apparently, bottling was the first idea, and it goes back to the Napoleonic Wars. Some French guy actually invented canning, believe it or not. But what the idea was, he put it in a bottle, cooked the food in it, and then sealed it up and put it into the field, really for soldiers. And that was how it kind of started. It was for soldiers at the front line, so they didn't have to struggle getting food, fresh food all the time. That moved on to cans, and interestingly, it wasn't until very much later that they invented a can opener. Apparently soldiers used to open the cans with their bayonets, which has been interesting. I'd like to do that with a can now, but that's basically the history of them, or something like that. Okay, so going to move over to this. What I've got here is nice hot water. In fact, it's boiling quite berserkly here. So I'm going to lift in each of the pots. Now here I've got this device. It just helps me to lower them in. You grab it. Actually, I've done it the other way around. Should have put it the other way around, Neil, which I didn't. That sits on there. I should have put the handle towards me, which was not the cleverest, Neil. In fact, as you'll see, I've now got it the right way round. So don't do like me. Use the other way, and it nicely grips the bottle like that. Look at that, it's just so much easier. And the next one, keep your hands on the rubber handle. That way you won't get yourself burnt. Two little ones. Now these sit on top of like a mesh so we can lift them out. Okay, right, lid goes back on these. Now we only got those on loose, those lids, so it allows any air to come out, allows the vacuum to form. So now we're going to do a little bit of tidying up, and hopefully at the end of all this we have fantastic jam with figs, red wine, some rosemary, and a little bit of heat from the chilies we put in. So I'll let you know how it tastes at the end of it all. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next time in the kitchen. Thank you.